Hey guys, this is Doug. Welcome back to the planet, and today we're talking all about tactics cards, our top 10 favorite in Marvel Crisis Protocol. Shane, how are you, sir?
I am doing well, Doug. How are you doing this evening?
Good. Welcome back to the planet. I guess you're kind of on the planet all the time because you just chill in the Discord, though. To be fair, so you're not really you're kind of like a local. Like you're probably one of the aliens that lives on Danger Planet, right? To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the Guardians of the Galaxy. We fly over to the Danger Planet every once in a while. We get our plucky attitudes ready.
Yeah. I like how you never stop doing that. You got to keep referencing the abilities of the MCB cards in the conversation. That's very Brandon energy. I'm sure he's watching this and he's like nodding his head as he's editing it. He's like, yeah, man, fucking let's go, Shane. Like, he's with you in spirit here, man. Anyway, guys, welcome back. If you guys hadn't seen our first ever Marvel Crisis Protocol video, it was Shane and I doing a kind of full bore affiliation tier list where we looked at the game in its entirety as a snapshot of the meta, and we kind of stack ranked all of the different affiliations, how they currently sit in Marvel Crisis Protocol. Time of recording right now is I did that thing where you have to count on your fingers. It's June, gentlemen and ladies and other friends. It is late June 2025. So all of the stuff we're talking about is in context for that, right? So I want you guys to know, if you're watching this video a year later or whatever, time of recording, that's what these cards that we're going to be talking about are. And that is also kind of important to our Meta Watch series because Shane and I basically try to take a detailed look at the meta at a specific time and then talk about it and kind of move it around and stuff like that. Today we're talking all about probably one of my favorite mechanics of Marvel Crisis Protocol. We're talking about the tactics cards. So about 2 years ago when I got into this game, Shane was the one that mostly showed me and taught me how to play. Literally taught me how to use the TTS app. So thank you. But we would always come back to affiliation-based conversations with exceptions for specific bench hiring in a tournament. And I would always ask him like, oh, well, isn't this profile better than this one? Like, why don't we just like not care about affiliation? He's like, dude, tactics cards are an important part of this game, and understanding tactics cards at large from a meta perspective is going to help you play better, help you know what to expect out of your opponents, and honestly probably just result in a lot more wins than losses when you're looking back at the end of the year and how you played right at the tournament scene. I was like, brah, like, I'll trust you, you know more than me. And turns out he was right. So one of the things that we wanted to do is just make a video where we talk about not necessarily the most powerful tactics cards out there. These are very, very powerful and very, very good, but the ones that we personally like, right? So like our personal top 10 tactics cards. Those are the ones that we're going to highlight today for a variety of different reasons, and we're going to walk you through kind of why we chose each one. So we're going to look at the card, we're going to look at why we like it, we're going to look at the type of card that it represents in the game, and then we're going to basically do that 9 more times. Shane, do you have any primordial objections to this? Do you want to storm off in anger? Are you excited? How are you feeling?
I don't get angry. You would have liked me when
That is true. You are very, very even. You're very, very even-keeled most of the time. Okay, so that's the game plan. Obviously, you knew that because, you know, you're here with me on the episode. But now the internet knows that too. So do you want to talk? I don't want to ruin your first card reveal. Why don't you? I'll do a drum roll for you. Ready? So the first one we're talking about is Shane.
Recalibration Matrix.
Okay.
And I feel like most people already know what this card does. Right now, the way the game has evolved, we have very few generic tactics cards inside of the game because of the ban list, the restricted list. All of these things have happened. The design philosophy has gone away from these generic cards seemingly, especially when you look at like some of the boxes that were hard to find. Were not hard to find because the characters were cool. I mean, all the characters in the game were cool, but they were hard to find because these tactics cards were so important to the game. So this card in particular, Recalibration Matrix, is holding on as a staple in many, many lists. It's probably the most taken um, generic tactics card that is splashed into a list, across lists. And
I mean, I know my friends basically take it pretty much every game. Like, Vitali plays this literally every crew, and Ian plays it in like 80-90% of his games.
yeah, and even if I don't play it, it's in my 10 much more often than not. Like, if you were to look through all my lists that I have in Jarvis, which is way too many lists,
it's like hundreds of them or something.
this would pop up way more often than it doesn't. So the reason is everybody who plays war games know dice modification, dice smoothing, luck smoothing, whether it's Malifaux and you're cheating the card from your hand, or it's Marvel Crisis Protocol and you're rolling extra dice, you're re-rolling dice. We all know that the lowering the probability is really good, and lowering that curve, making it a lot flatter, and that's what this card is going to do. So after all dice mods have happened, right before you calculate your success and failure, you spend 3 power, play this card. Both players pick up all their dice that are not skulls, unless they have the ability to modify skulls, and roll them again. You're making an attack. The defender spiked. You do the math in your head, and you're like, hey, what are the chances they're going to spike again? A little bit of gambler's fallacy. But you get in there and say, like, okay, if I need to push through that 1 or 2 damage, this is a really good risk versus reward.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like the way I believe this card works, which I'm pretty sure I'm right, is because it's at the end of the modify step, like specifically at the end of that step, you would get to see what other types of modifications would go onto the different dice stacks prior, because they would have to commit them before you would activate Recalibration Matrix, correct?
Absolutely, and because of where this plays, you don't get to roll in extra crits. If you roll a crit again, you don't get to take your cover. Any other dice mods you have are totally ignored. So one of the cool things about it, when we look at some of the characters that are currently being taken, somebody like Magic who got a glow up, who counts skulls, somebody like Dormammu who's rising a little bit in popularity, not being able to reroll your skulls for them is such a huge positive. And if you look at somebody like Black Panther on his, or the new Black Panther on his Wisdom of the Ancients turn, like he goes in there with his 6-die attack, he does his 2 rerolls, maybe he's got a bunch of skulls, he plays this card, he's counting skulls, and he can't reroll those skulls, so they're all automatically hits, and he gets to reroll the other dice. When you have characters like a Red Skull 2, who's really popular now, who's paid to count his blanks, rerolling the dice is only ever going to be better for you than it is for the other person that's across from you. So it adds a lot to it if you're playing it in the right situation.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, and I think it's also just like a perfect example of one of the more commonly most powerful, I guess I would call it unaffiliated cards. I guess, yeah, it literally is an unaffiliated card. Duh, we did it. There we go. All right, cool. So I think that's a very reasonable first call out. Big fan of that one. Number 2, do you want a drum roll? Do you want me to keep doing drum rolls? Do you want one more drum roll? No more drum rolls? How are you feeling on the drum rolls?
You do you, man. If you want drum rolls,
I'll do one more. You ready?
All right.
Number 2.
Strategic Retreat.
Okay.
This is a super cool card. I think that Foes box that we got recently was a huge glow up for them, and there were a lot of good cards in there, and I think because of the other obvious good cards that were like, haha, you do more dice, you get extra out of activation attacks. That's all really good stuff, right? We all love that. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to put Wakanda Forever or anything in this list because everybody already knows what that does, right? Everybody's seen that card a million times and understands it. Strategic Retreat is a little bit more nuanced than all those cards, but what it's actually doing is the level of a card that's already been banned. So when you get targeted by an attack, if you're a Spider Foes character and you're holding an objective, you spend 4. Immediately, you choose a character within 3 of you. You take one of your objectives. It's one of these generic ones that doesn't care what type of extract it is. It just has to be one of those tokens. And you move that token to a friendly within 3 of you. That really character is now holding the token. You no longer have it. So, like,
really good.
You were left on 1 health. Your Doc Ock is sitting out there hanging in the wind. He spends 4. Boom. Even if I get dazed, I no longer have this. Points win games, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, I was gonna say, like, I'm like fairly new to competitive MCP play, right? I've only been playing this game for 2 years, and I don't go to nearly as many tournaments as I would Malifaux tournaments. But like, I still love the game, and the cards that I always key in on immediately are like these types of tactics cards that either allow you to efficiently enable you to score points, or to score points in interesting ways and or affect like the trajectory of the score track. And like, this hits all the high notes for me. I have Spider Foes because my primary faction is Web Warriors, and so I got Spider Foes for like the Saturday morning cartoon matchup, literally. And so I got to play this a couple times, and it is so fun. And I 100% agree with your sentiment there when you say like points win games. Like, literally they do. And having powerful effects like this that can manipulate the scoring mechanism, the primary scoring mechanism of Marvel Crisis Protocol, is like really, really pretty good in my opinion. I mean, I assume you agree because you're the one that picked this card, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of all the scoring stuff, which if it just did the scoring stuff, it would be worth 4 power and would be worth a slot. You also get to advance away from the character.
Free movement.
That advance, unlike some other effects like this that move you during the targeting phase, you still get attacked. The attack still goes off, but you can move into cover. Now you're in cover. Now you get that extra dice mod. Or you could move to the spot where you're no longer in double tap range. Or you could be setting yourself up for next turn near something you wanted to throw because a bunch of Spider Foes have throws, or just gaining position, right? Gaining position in the game is so huge. There are only so many actions in the game. So getting an action compression and saving points, it's an all-star card in my view.
Yeah, it's good. And like, people never expect this card is like the Spanish Inquisition. People never expect this shit when you play it, at least in my experience. Because like, you know, who plays Strategic Retreat and Spider Foes other than like literally the coolest kids at the lunch table? Because if you do, shout out to you, and you're just like, oh yeah, I know Strategic Retreat and I jam Spider Foes all the time. You're the cool kid at the lunch table. Shout out to you for sure.
Every time I line up against somebody who's playing Spider Foes and they did not choose this card, I breathe a little sigh of relief.
You're like, oh.
Like,
this shit lives rent free in the back of Shane's mind at tournaments. He's like, oh my god, the Spider Foes in there. Like, it's like tossing and turns. Like, dude, chill out. That card's not real. It will never happen. He's like, you haven't seen what I've seen. All right, cool. So that all makes sense to me. I agree with you that card is dope. It's part of why I love Marvel Crisis Protocol, because a lot of these cards are not just good, but they're super flavorful too, which is fun. We're about to talk about, I believe, one of my favorite, most flavorful cards, just because I love this character, because it's like my favorite villain from the Spider-Man universe. I won't do a drum roll anymore, but what we got for number 3 here, Mr. Shane?
So, Carnage recently got a glow up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a minor one, but I think the community is kind of latched onto it. I've seen him a lot more. And Carnage Rules.
I love Carnage. I have a fully painted Carnage that I haven't actually played yet. And when I saw the glow up, I was hyped. I was like, man, I'm actually going to get this boyo on the table now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen him a bunch since the glow up, and he's been okay. He's definitely been takeable. He's been... It wasn't a huge deal that they did to him. They didn't give him a lot, but it was enough to make him at least viable. And when somebody takes him now, I don't go, oh, really? That's what you're doing?
Yeah. You're not like, why? Yeah.
And I understand, like, back in the day, Carnage Rules was super duper popular back when when you could Doom Prophecy him, and he was adding 5 dice to all his attacks, and now all of a sudden, like, he was doing Carnage Rules and, taking the attack off of this, his 2 normal attacks, and then his Paint the Town Red attack. He was doing 4 extra attacks in that turn, all at plus 5 dice. Like, it was madness. It was madness. So now Doom Prophecy no longer a thing. That's an Asgard toy. They get to play with it still. But Carnage, you're taking a character who's out of range. He doesn't have a ton of action compression until he gets the train rolling. He doesn't have a leap or something like that to get him there. So this gets the first character into range by advancing them short towards him, which, if they're at range 4, puts them automatically within range 3 of his attacks. Then he gets to make a builder attack against them. So that builder attack, because it paints the town red, now all of a sudden he can get movement off of that and start doing some weird things. You combine this with the Spider Foes card, where they're getting an extra attack, surprise webhead. Now all of a sudden Carnage is back in those days where he's potentially 5 attacks a turn.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I also just to be honest with you, if I'm going to be honest with you, Shane, I genuinely just love kidnap type mechanics in skirmish games. I have no finer a feeling in the cockles of my cold dead heart than capturing one of your premier models, pulling it out of position, and then beating it to death. And this card lets me do that in MCP, so I'm a big fan of this card. Like I said, I'm like a Carnage fanboy in the comics, so I love him, obviously, and I'm hyped to see him be more playable. But like on what you were talking about earlier, Shane, I feel like sometimes when a model hasn't been tried for a while, and this is for all the different game systems I've played competitively, right? Like this is, 40K, Infinity, Malifaux, Song of Fire and Ice, like you name it, whatever. If a meta starts to stagnate and people don't necessarily, they'll like write a model off because it's not relevant in a certain like context of a meta, and then like a ton of time will pass and things will shift around, and then maybe like you'll get like a small bump, like you said with the Carnage bump, and it's enough to make people look at it again and then recontextualize it in the context of the new like competitive meta. And sometimes you can like pick diamonds out of the rough in that scenario. And if I'm being honest with you, dude, I kind of hope that happens with Carnage and he just like becomes like a super playable model, because man, I would love that for my crazy red boy. That'd be so awesome. He's just a crazy red boy, Shane,
He's a crazy yellow boy, but I get it.
All right. So we're getting through these pretty quick. What do you got for, actually, can I do the 4th one? Because you did the first 3. All right, we're talking about Warpath, folks. Unaffiliated, reactive, and it reads, after an attack that damaged an allied character is resolved, the damaged character may spend 1 to play this card. This character may advance short towards the attacking character. Shane, Warpath, what do we got?
So we got some action compression, and like we talked about earlier, there's not a whole lot of generic cards out there.
And very point efficient one at that.
And I think this one should probably be played more often than it is. I think it's a little bit of a sleeper. I've seen it in some lists recently. I've had a couple people play it against me. I've played it a couple times recently where it's done some surprising things, especially these characters that don't have action compression, that we need some other way to get it to them.
Yeah, or they're like, they don't have like quite the movement tech to get them where you want them to be, and they're doing their job depends on being at that spot, but they're not quite fast enough to get there themselves or something, Something
and
like
we're
that.
seeing a lot of attacks now, and a lot of characters with either builders or spenders who are doing some sort of movement, whether a throw or a push or something like that, off of their attack. Your Jane Fosters, your Draculas, that kind of stuff, where you get attacked, they're sending you out of position. This immediately gets you back in the fight, especially if it's your bodyguard character, your Luke Cages, your Venoms, stuff like that, where you want to get back there and be able to, be relevant inside of the battle again.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I agree with everything you're saying. Plus, it's also very efficiently costed. Like it costs a single energy, right? So, and you get out of activation movement as a result of it, which the opponent may not be thinking about because, like you said, this is not a super seen card all the time. There's not a people aren't gripping their Warpaths when they show up to a tournament necessarily. I would say, in my opinion.
No, for sure.
But I love that about this list. That's honestly, that's one of the things that I think makes me really excited about getting in competitive and cool and interesting matches of Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is I love to see people experiment with their with what the cards they're using and then try to make different lists around that and stuff too. It's cool to see. That's a big part of the iteration process of this particular war game that I think is cool and I really enjoy seeing. So I super dig this episode because we're talking about useful but probably fairly quirky cards, right? I bet you there's some people watching this now that some of the cards we're going to bring up they haven't seen before or even played against before, I'd imagine. So
yeah, I think that one is quirky. The next one is probably super meta.
Super meta, the most meta because of who it's attached to, probably.
Yeah. So we're moving into the Great Refuge, which is an Inhumans card, where the character with an active leadership can spend any amount of power to play the card. So it could be a power dump if you needed to power dump for some reason. I don't know why you would, but if you needed to, it's there. But for every 2 power they spent, choose an Inhumans character, so it's got to be affiliated, not just one of the people that you took. Without an objective token, place them within range 3 of their current location. So that's 6 inches plus base size. In the small amount of board space that we play this game in, that range 3 is huge. You can use it as an alpha to get in on people. You could use it as your last-ditch effort to chase down Black Cat, who's ran to a corner, or Toad, who's ran to a corner. You could use it to get up in position late in a turn, to put people back on points. There's a million different uses. And one of the things I love about it, and hate about it, is that there's no range from the leader that the people have to be. It's just any Inhumans character, place them within 3. Including themselves. So some degenerate stuff people are doing is Lockjaw passes Black Bolt to power and teleports Black Bolt up range 3.
Which is it's just 6 inches. Range 3 in this game is a 6-inch teleport. Is what we're talking about.
Plus
right?
base size, right?
Plus base size. So yeah, sorry. But in most cases over a 7 or 8-inch teleport, which is just stupid. That's a ton of movement.
Yeah, so Lockjaw sends up Black Bolt. The opponent does something. Black Bolt goes next. Because Lockjaw passed the power to him. Black Bolt spends 2 power. Great Refuges himself. Now he's been 12 inches plus 2 bases. He can literally tap the deployment line. Somebody who hasn't moved yet on turn 1.
Yeah.
And shoot them. Just the threat of that happening adjusts the way you have to play against Inhumans, which makes this a super meta, super powerful card.
Yeah, it's a crazy amount of movement on a very good team, a very meta relevant team. So
yeah.
I mean, I think in my take, this is just this just falls into an example of a card that a super meta relevant affiliation plays that enhances what they're already doing that's so powerful, basically. We already talked about it, so I won't beat a dead horse on this one, but that amount of movement is a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, and it does everything you could want out of a tactics card. It saves people, right?
Yeah.
You've got a character who just got spiked. Now they got 1 or 2 health left. You retreat them. You need to get points. All of a sudden you teleport your people. They're back on points, and then maybe you're outscoring your opponent. If you needed the aggro or the chase, it gives you the aggro, it gives you the chase. It does whatever you want it to do, and it has so many
It's very versatile, and it's good at all the things it's doing, too.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on there, and know what this card does, because you will see it if you play in tournaments.
Yep. Combat efficiency and movement win games. You heard it here, folks.
Yep.
All right. We got Mirage up next.
Yeah, so
we didn't do like too much fanfare. Hold on, I'll give you a little mini roll. Boom, ching, like one of those like punchline jokes. There you go, Mirage.
There you go. Yeah. I think we're going to see Lady Mastermind a lot, especially on her release.
Yeah, probably.
But after that, I think she's going to have some teeth, because I think she's a pretty good character.
So you know, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and I think this might be a good point to stop and ask you, because I've always kind of wondered this. When you have a good character, like, when do you feel it's always appropriate to lean into them with specific cards that they combo with, or are there times where like the point of a good character in your mind is to not have to support it with like additional hand trajectory? And how do you make that, like, how do you, right, as a very competitive tournament player and tournament organizer and guy that's been played a shitload of this game, how do you make that decision? Like, how do you make that evaluation? Do you get what I'm asking?
Yeah, so I think part of it is you have to look at your central game plan. So you look at your central game plan and you say, where do I believe that this scenario is going to go? One of the beautiful things about MCP is every game is unique. The reason why the stats are so almost unapplicable a lot of the time, and I kind of laugh at them even though we used them to do our tier list video, is
I mean, we did put in a healthy dose of personal bias. Like, our tier list video is not 100% on meta at all. It's like in the same room as the meta and is like having a serious conversation with it about its career goals, but it is not like the same, right?
It's standing in the corner saying they don't know about my bias.
They don't know about my bias. Except now everybody does know about our bias, Shane. We've ruined it. So
yeah, they do. We put it out there on the internet.
Yeah.
But one of the things about stats is you will never, in this game, there will never be enough data. There will never be enough games played with every character, every affiliation versus every character, every affiliation on every combination of scenarios to be able to figure out what's actually the best, right? Yeah. The number of permutations that we would have to get up to would be in, somebody could calculate it out. They'll tell me in the comments, but it'll be like trillions or quadrillions or something like that.
Yeah. You're never going to see all of the outcomes. And in fact, a lot of your matchups are going to be determined by people kind of like trying to play towards the meta. So you're going to see, in my opinion, a much more narrowed kind of set where it's like, I think, and I think this is a good inflection point for what we talked about in our other video about the Web Warrior stuff, where like you see specific things taken against the Web Warriors, or you know that the Web Warriors strategy relies on a particular like card, you know, like all webbed up.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a good example of that, of what you were just saying. So.
Yeah. So to circle back around on your question, I think a lot of it has to deal with looking at the scenario in front of you. What is the secure? What is the extract? Okay. Now, what is my game plan? Obviously, beforehand, I've chosen my 10 cards and 10 models and said, all right, I have this vision of how I'm going to react around the board. But once you stand at the table, you need to really evaluate,
how do you believe
am I
play
going
out?
to use XYZ?
For
how
ABC
is this
thing.
going to play out?
Yeah.
We're sitting at 17 points, and my opponent's going to take XYZ models, I think. So how do I counter that? What am I going to do? How is that going to affect my game plan? And it's almost like this one-upsmanship that you could literally circular logic yourself for forever.
So is it fair to say that to the like a layperson's interpretation of what you just said is basically it's a context relevant decision that you have to make when you show up at the table, and if you have a key piece or a piece that's a big part of your strategy, you want to try to look at the table and think about the expectation about how the game itself is going to play out, given who your opponent is, given the texture of the map, and given the strat pool, and then just like try to think whether or not that particular slot would be relevant in that game, and if it's useful, bring it in, and if it's not, you know, save yourself that really valuable slot in your hand. Is that kind of the essence of what you're saying?
Absolutely, and some stuff's going to be a windmill slam, right? Say I'm playing Wakanda, and whether I am trying to kill my opponent play a mid-range game where I'm doing a little bit of control, a little bit killing, or going classic OG Panther and doing all control, Wakanda Forever is going to be a windmill slam.
Yeah,
right?
you're
Every
always
character,
taking that.
every Wakandan in my list taking an attack for one power where they've got so many pushes, they've got all of the control, and also the kill models have all the kill. That card's just always going to be windmill slam inside of a Wakanda list. So,
or all webbed up in
Right.
Spider Web Warriors. Yeah.
Yep. Or maybe spoiler alert for later. There's one Web Warriors card that I think I see taken more often than not that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. But okay, all right. So I think that's an important tangent, and sorry for dragging you onto that, but I wanted to ask you that live because I was wondering that, and I was like, I had a list like on my hand scrawled shitty little notebook. It was like questions to surprise Shane with, and I just checked one off. So, sorry for the pit stop there, the internet.
No,
all right. So
it's a
talk
good
to
question.
us.
It's valuable.
Given that context, talk to us about Lady Mastermind's Mirage.
So Mirage, when an enemy character attacks somebody within 3 of Lady Mastermind, could be her, could be somebody else, she can pay 2 to play Mirage. And for every skull in the attacker's attack roll, Lady Mastermind changes one result of the attack roll to a blank. Don't play it against Red Skull 2, all right? Pro tip. But any other character in the game, you do this to, for every die that gets changed, the attacker loses a power. So you could, if this card is there and you haven't played it, you're already messing with the opponent's mind, right? It's a mind game. They go, do I have to throw first before I attack to see? And I can't wait to see what happens. Do I need to do my activation in a different order? What do I need to do to make sure I have enough power to do the other things I want to do on my turn? In addition to that, if you changed one die, the defending character gets to advance away, sure. Now, it's a little bit of slot machine because there needs to be a skull in the attack roll for any of this stuff to happen. But when somebody's making a large attack like a Hulk or, King T'Challa, or somebody who's making an attack with a bunch of rerolls and stuff in it, the likelihood of that skull coming up is really high. So do you want to take it when Gwen is, shooting a web sling into you for 4 dice? Probably not.
Yeah, no, probably not.
You're
probably looking to spend this on a fat attack coming your way.
Right. When the Hulk's all of a sudden rolling 12 dice into you, and Lady Mastermind goes, "Ha, you just did your spender, and I'm gonna suck away the rest of your power." And,
in fact, what you say is you've activated my trap card.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Right. Good.
So,
Just wanna make sure we're on the same page.
I think she's gonna be really meta relevant coming up here pretty soon. I think she's got a lot of game to her, and my experience into her is she's a really cool piece that you always have to be thinking about what's going on. And this card just adds another layer to that mental tax for the opponent. And there's something to say about the mental tax that your opponent has to go through, because that does make them make poor decisions.
Yeah.
So just by having this card and never playing it, they might make poor decisions.
Yeah, or like non-optimal decisions because they're afraid of the card or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
And this is going to get battle tested because Lady Mastermind's probably going to see play for sure. At least initially, for sure. I think there's no doubt of that. All right. What do we got? We got another unaffiliated special here in Survival, Mr. Shane. Talk to us about surviving.
This card is so funny. When it was first announced, people went wild over, oh my God, this is going to be in every list. And then people played it, and maybe we're playing it in the wrong situations, and it seemed like ridiculously underwhelming. Then, it's starting to creep its way back up. And now we're going to see, I think, this card in people's lists when they are playing against other mid-range or tall lists, but they don't think they're going to have priority. So if you think you're going to have priority the whole game, if you're playing a 3-model list, which is where a lot of people initially were taking this, it's not worth taking.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to get the opportunity to play this in a good way. When you think you're running your 4 or 5 model list and you've got an injured a character that when they get injured, you want them to have a glow up turn. Either because once they build power, they're a little bit fragile, but they can do a lot with that power and over affect the game with that power. Maybe somebody like a Nightcrawler who with that power can all of a sudden bamf around a couple of times and doing his spender can pull Hulks and stuff off of the table. Or you've got a big guy, but you're looking across the table from you and you know your opponent is going to be right even with you on number of models, and you go, well, I want to save my Hulk, I want to save my Dormammu, I want to save whatever big guy that you've got, because not getting a turn with one of those big guys feels really bad.
Yep, that makes sense. It's also like it's unaffiliated, so you don't really need to. There's no real like you can kind of just wherever this is relevant, you can throw it in, which I like about this. Is I guess what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you've got to use it at the right time for your game plan. If your game plan is Sam Wilson and 6 to 8 of his friends running around, you're never going to use this effectively.
Yep, I agree. That's a spicy one, Shane. God damn. The spicy meatball. You had like a vanilla ice cream cone with a couple of these, and then you have like the spiciest of the spicy meatballs. That's hilarious. All right. I mean, I guess I'm not sure if this one's spicy. Like, I play this card. This card's fucking great.
I bet you play this card a lot.
Yeah, it's fucking Spider. All right, sorry, the internet. I didn't mean to swear. It's Spider Tracker, guys. Spider Tracker. Yeah, this card's awesome. Talk to us about Spider Tracker. I will have some color comments afterwards for sure. Please,
so first off,
go ahead.
I'm not one. All my cards are sleeved. I don't look at the pictures. The picture on Spider Tracker is dope.
Yeah, you mean the laptop notebook case filled with pumpkin explosive bombs that has a little blippy blip on it? Yeah. I used to love that when I grew up watching the 90s Spider-Man cartoon show, and whenever he would throw it and it would like latch onto something, it would be like beep beep beep. Like I literally like can hear that sound looking at this picture. But I'm a huge old school Spider-Man stan, so I'm sure there's other people out there too that have that type of nostalgia for this nonsense. So go ahead, Shane.
Well, I'm glad we could bring you back to your misspec.
Yeah, man, right back there. I feel it looking at this thing. I mean, yeah, okay. Talk to us about why this card's good or why you give a crap about it.
So when an enemy character moves within 4 of a web warrior, they can drop 2 power, advance short. The advance could be towards, could be away, could be to the side. You're already playing the runaway faction, the rotate faction, right?
Yeah.
Rotating around the board
is what you do.
It's the main game plan. There are some people who play kill web warriors, and I think we're going to see, once Miguel gets released, we're going to see like a lot of people playing kill web warriors. I think that's going to become the new hotness when that box finally comes out.
I'm still going to play Runaway Like You Stole Something Web Warriors because that's like my favorite one to play for sure. But I will also try that, obviously. So you're not wrong, I don't think.
But like the other action compression cards that we've already talked about, this is anytime you can move outside of your turn is really good.
Yeah.
This is going to stop you from getting attacked or stop you from getting double tapped. Save that character who's on one life, who is holding on to an extract or 3 extracts. Maybe they got 3 cubes on them and they're hiding behind a building. This is going to be that card that's going to save your life.
Yeah. It's fairly efficient out of activation movement, which is really nice. Really, really nice. This card is great. I play it all the time. I don't disagree with anything you said.
This is another card that plays mind games with your opponent.
Yeah, I especially think if you're playing against a high skill level opponent who like actually understands how powerful it is to like push a button and get a free short movement, right? Already on a very, very, very mobile like team. It can mess with them a little bit, which is cool. And they like, it's one of those cards where they'll like, maybe they won't make a play because they're like, oh, he still has Spider Tracker in his hand or whatever. Obviously there's people that do that with all webbed up because that's like the premier thing that Web Warriors does, right? But I've definitely played against some other opponents that also like, I've talked about post-mortem with them, like reviewing the game. They're like, oh yeah, and like I knew you had Spider Tracker in your hand because like I knew you have it, so like I figured, you know, XYZ. That's definitely happened before as well, but probably not to the same frequency as all webbed up. But you know, that card's a hell of a drug. So that's what I got. You got anything else on Spider Tracker?
No, I think that's pretty much everything. You know, it's that mind game that the longer you hold it, the better it is. And it is going to score you points or get you into position to do what you want to do with your game plan.
I concur, sir. Let's talk about the reserve members of the Avengers.
Yeah, so we've seen recently Avengers really take some teeth into competitive play. You're seeing...
their amount of played games from our meta review for the month was nuts comparatively to most other things, honestly.
Yeah, and you're seeing them near the tops of near the top tables in a lot of different events. And this card is one of the reasons. There's some other reasons. You know, they're always good in the fresh meta, like we talked about, because they've got some really obvious play patterns that you can exploit. They've got a deep host of characters. But if you wanted to take a character that wasn't inside of that deep host, you can put this on a 3 value or less character, and they get this reactive power once a turn when they're attacking or defending. If they're within 2 of somebody with a leadership ability, which, spoiler alert, like 15 people who are Avengers affiliated have leadership abilities. Even if it's somebody like Cable, who it's not an Avengers leadership, doesn't matter. They've still got a leadership ability, so you get this power. They can add 1 die to their attack or defense roll, and that sounds meaningless, right? What's 1 die? You know, but that 1 die can mean a lot, especially Gambit is like #1 offender of this. This is what gets him into like that average damage of 6 or 7, or average successes of 6 or 7 minus whatever your opponent's gonna get. Because that extra die with the dice mod from First Avenger and the dice mod from Gambit himself, like all of a sudden all of that stuff starts to add up, and it's compounding factors.
It's also it's like super efficient, right? Like it costs 0, right? The downside is you can only do it once a turn, and like I think the intention of this card is that it's kind of like the Frank's Red Hot sauce of Avengers play. Like you put that shit on everything, and you just fucking use it as much as you can, because that's how you get like a lot of efficiency out of a edge efficiency, like, you know, triggered enchantment, for lack of a better term, I guess I would describe this card like, right? Like you said 1 is not that much in terms of like addition to a die roll or defense roll, but I beg to pardon when that happens like 30 times over the course of a game. You know, it's pretty efficient in my opinion.
And it's once per turn, so you're gonna see most characters you're attacking with like 4 turns of the game, 3 to 4 turns of the game. So you're gonna see 4 dice there. You're going to get attacked in most games 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
So, you know, because your 3 threats, they're the ones who are going to be absorbing a lot of the attacks, because they can be pulled off the table. It's a lot harder to pull Hulk off the table, right? You have to have a plan.
Correct.
So when you've got a Gambit, or you got like I think it's really good on Proxima Midnight inside of a Sam Wilson list. I was running that for a little bit. This card can just add on to that compounding factor and bring things up to that next level. Yeah.
It's interesting. I have not seen as many people play this, but I don't have as many games into it as Avengers as I would like, to be honest with you. I do think you make a good point about the Avengers being like increasingly meta relevant. They'll always be relevant in this game because people love playing the Avengers. Honestly,
Good guys are cool.
yeah, the good guys are cool, and these are like the core good guys that like built the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So gotta respect it, I suppose. All right, what we got? Mental Domination as our last card here. Mr. Shane, what do we got here during the Jean Grey Cassandra Nova? Oh, I didn't realize this was a Cassandra Nova card. That's cool.
That's because she doesn't really exist.
She's cool though. I mean, maybe one day she will.
Next February, when the Sentinels upgrade comes,
Yeah.
Cassandra Nova will maybe get some more. No, she's fine. She's fine. She's just getting pushed out because she's not as flashy as some of the other people in her threat level. But Jean Grey. So this works with both versions of Jean. So it works with Phoenix and original Jean Grey. I think with Phoenix being released, whether she's good or not, maybe we'll talk about that pretty soon. But whether she's good or not, she's going to be relevant. The model is gorgeous. People love Jean Grey. She's more playable than the other Jean Grey, who's not that bad. Just again, not flashy. So you're going to see this. This card does so much stuff.
Yeah, it's like an obey basically.
You
range.
choose an enemy within 3, you advance them short, then you make an attack using them as the point of attack.
Yep.
It's a range 2 attack. You add their physical defense dice to it. So now all of a sudden you got Carnage with 5 physical defense who's got no action compression of his own. You're walking him short away, and then you're making a 7-die attack onto his buddy.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. This card's gross.
And you're out of, Venom's clapback range because Carnage needs to be within 2, not Phoenix.
Yeah.
And it's doing a lot for you.
Yeah.
In addition, during that attack, you can re-roll the opposing defense dice. And it's any number. So it's not like Agamotto where it's all or nothing. It's any number. So they get a couple of skulls, they get a couple of shields, you re-roll the shields, all of a sudden, like, they're getting nothing out of it. So you're taking an attack that doesn't cost an action. You're moving an enemy, doesn't cost an action, for the low price of 3 power.
Yeah, it's really efficient and it's a really powerful effect. I agree. Yeah. I think we're gonna see a lot of Jean Grey. My hope is that Jean Grey just like grabs the X-Men, puts them on her back, and just like forces them into meta relevance again. I love the X-Men. I want to see them do well. Plus, like, pour one out for Vitali. Poor guy's been beaten on by Web Warriors and unnerfed Thor for like the last year and a half, so deserves a W in my book. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. This is a very powerful effect for 3 expenditure, effectively in my mind. Like, it's very good.
And it's got a really good range, so the character's going to be in range of her to attack, and then she can move them out of range.
Yeah.
Right? So now you move them short plus base size. If you were sitting at range 3, they're now outside of range 4. So unless they're a range 5 attacker, now they have to walk back in. So I think with Phoenix coming into the game, you're going to see this card a lot. You need to know what this card does. You need to understand what this card does. You also need to be prepared for it.
I agree. Yeah, because you're gonna see this played basically every time you see Jean Grey on the table. I can't imagine someone taking Jean Grey and not taking this card, right? Like, if Jean Grey is in your list, your first card probably is this, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, or pretty close to it. Like, it's definitely going to make your 10. Whether or not it makes your 5.
Yeah, sure. I suppose it always makes your 10, and a heck of a lot of the time makes your 5. Fair?
Yeah, I mean, X-Men specifically, and this isn't affiliated, so it could be if she's splashed anywhere. I don't really see her being splashed anywhere yet. We'll see.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
She's got some cool interactions with Incinerate, so maybe like her and Mephisto are going to become best buds. But when X-Men have so many good tactics cards, you're going to see First Class in the list. You're going to see To Me My X-Men in the list. You're going to see Xavier's Dream in the list, and Brace and Sacrifice or Fallback, whichever one you want to take. And there's 5 cards, right? So there's 5 good cards that if you played those every single game as an X-Men player, I'd probably go, okay, maybe not the best decision you could have made, but certainly not a bad one.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's a fair take. And time will tell. Like I said, I love the X-Men, and I think Jean Grey is fucking dope. So I hope this. I hope she doesn't break the meta, but I hope she gives it a solid punch in the gut, I guess, is how I would describe my aspirational feelings for her and her compatriots.
Well, the internet is going to have to wait for the opinion on that one for at least a little bit.
A little bit. We will have a video probably on Jean Grey, because I'm excited about her. Shane's excited about her. A lot of people in our Discord are talking about her a bunch. My buddy is ridiculously excited for her. So you'll see that from us guys, which is to say also, like we said, you'll see Marvel Crisis Protocol videos from us, not just necessarily devoted to one genre type of thing. Shane and I are going to try to lean into, if we think something is happening in the general meta or like competitive sphere play of Marvel Crisis Protocol, and it's shifting the paradigm, whether or not that's a card banning, whether or not that's a new box release that goes into a bunch of different affiliations, whether or not that's a single individual powerful model that we feel is going to be represented pretty heavily in the meta. Like, you'll see us make videos about those things effectively. But if you guys have other ideas, or you want to see other type of specific content from us, let us know in the comments, please. Neither of us are quitting this game anytime soon. And you'll see a lot more consistent coverage of Marvel Crisis from specifically Shane and me as a dynamic duo. So just let us know the type of stuff that you guys want to see. Like I said, the other ongoing stuff that you will see will be of that nature from Shane and I. Shane and I are generally fairly competitive players in most of the war games we play. So when we talk about stuff, when we look at stuff, we're going to try to look at it from the lens of competitive tournament caliber play, and then put our own little nonsense spin on it to make it spicy and fun and unique, and our own unique individual flower of an opinion, effectively. So, if that's what you're here for, you want to see that, stick around. Please like and subscribe. Please let other people know that the Danger Planet is doing Marvel Crisis Protocol content. It really, really helps us out. And if you want to join in the conversation, we have a link below for our Discord. Shane, please say goodbye to the internet, sir.
Goodbye, internets.
Goodbye, the internet.
Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by the planet. You can check out the video description below for all of our important info and links. You can see a link to the Discord if you want to come be nerds on the internet with us. We have channels for all the games that we're playing and all of our community members are excited about. You can also check out all of our affiliate links for our Redbubble merch store, our Pro Acryl discount code, because they make the best hobby supplies on our planet and yours. And of course, our Weird affiliate link if you're buying Malifaux stuff straight from Jonathan Q. Weird himself. Most importantly, though, you can see a link to our Patreon, where I post things from time to time, like behind-the-scenes cuts or early vids, and we even have a tier where I'll bake you cookies and send them to you in real life. Thanks a ton to our current patrons who cover the cost of all of our software to make these videos, and we couldn't do it without them. You can see their names appearing now across the screen. And until next time, goodbye, the internet. We did it!